Hello, hello, hello. This is Tooth Be Told, Dr. Kyle Dumpert.
And this is Dr. Walter Aka.
And today we have on very close personal friend and my coach, actually my practice coach, my personal coach. His name's Todd King. He's with Fortune Management and been talking to Todd for a while, trying to get him on here. So things finally lined up with some time off for all of us over the Christmas break. So welcome, Todd. We're happy to have you here.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. It's been listening to you. I travel a lot, and every time I'm in the car, I'm always looking to see if you guys have your new episode and listening. So I actually am a listener. I love, especially I was just thinking about like who my favorite guest was. I really like was it Dr. Harris?
Yeah.
Yes.
2 episodes, right? Man, those were awesome. I really enjoyed those.
Awesome.
No, that's actually probably one of my favorite episodes as well.
Yeah, that was.
Anybody out there that those, go back and listen to those. Go back and listen to those. Those were great ones.
Absolutely.
Right.
So
it's amazing when Kyle told me about you, Todd. I was like, I was like, man, Kyle's on a whole other level because I've known Kyle since dental school. So he's excelling. So I'm guessing that you're probably 99% the reason why. So I was excited. To have you on so we can kind of break this down as to what a coach does and just kind of expand on that, and then figure out how people can get a hold of you and kind of utilize your services. What is your service, right? A lot of people may not even know what that is. So let's start with that, I guess. Like what you do, how you interact with, how you got with dentistry,
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, first off, I want to just say that 99% of Kyle's success is not on me. It's on him.
You don't have to lie, Todd.
If you think about the best people in the world, they truly have the best. Anybody that excels at anything, they truly have a life coach. Tiger Woods, his coach is not a better golfer than him. But he can sit there and look at his swing and see, is he doing something a little bit different? It's just those little interesting things that are going to, make the business a little bit better. And that's all I try to do with all my clients is just, hey, most of my clients most of my clients are probably in the top 20% of dentists in their profession and in their area. And so I definitely, like to just look for little things and try to help them from an outsider perspective. I'm not a dentist like you guys. And, I'm a businessman. I started my first business when I was 24. I bought a bar when I was at college at WVU, Western University. We're a little bit of a rival with you guys from Pitt. Like what they call the backyard brawl, right?
Yep.
Right. Here's a fun fact about West Virginia. Did you know that 25% of adults 65 and older don't have any natural teeth?
Really?
25%. I looked it up.
Where did you pull that information from?
I'm telling you, I looked it up this week, and I was like, that one. I guess that kind of makes sense because we don't like West Virginia at all. If you're a Pitt person, they've ruined our. Remember that one year where we were supposed to be number 2 going into the national championship. Last game we played West Virginia in football. We had Larry Fitzgerald. He was supposed to be Heisman. He should have won that. And you guys ruined it for us. And then I think a few years later, you guys were number 2. And then we ruined it for you guys.
Last game, then he went to Michigan, our coach. Yep.
Yes, sir. But anyway.
Have you seen the game day? This is totally off topic, but there's a game day on YouTube that where you guys have your Sweet Caroline song, where game day was filming at WVU, and then all the WVU fans were all like outside of the game day set up, and they were singing the Sweet Caroline, but we have a West Virginia Sweet Caroline version, so you have to check that out. It's West Virginia Sweet Caroline.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
I got to be careful because probably got like 22 doctors, probably 18 of them graduated from Pitt, so I gotta be real.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, I'm really confused now. Like, what do you have? What kind of magic sauce do you have that these people are hiring you? That's actually the magic here.
Yeah, so really when coaching, it comes down to anybody can be a coach And it's so funny, like when I talk about coaching and saying I'm a coach. Actually, on Black Friday, I saw something post up on my Facebook. It said, "Get your life coaching certificate for like $47 or something." It was like Groupon or one of them saying, like, "What is that? That's crazy." So, like, I think finding the right coach, finding the right fit is the most important. And a true coach is to customize to what the client needs. And really, it's not just a one size fit all. Not every coach is the right person. I go through a whole thing and talking with making sure that they have the same type of goals. If you really need a true, really good clinical coach, we have Fortune Management has some great coaches that are doctors. We have some great coaches that were office managers. We have somebody that's a coach that worked at Delta Dental. I came from a business. I coached a company called Rich Dad Poor Dad. I don't know if you ever read that book. Robert Kiyosaki. So I come from a true, like a business coaching standpoint. I've got my life coaching and I've done that and my training in that. And so I kind of combine it all. But, we do offer the consulting services, but it's really not that. It's really more about the coaching services. We don't ever want to come in and tell you, hey, this is what you need to do and this is how you should do it and then leave. Like a lot of consultants will come in and you spend $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 on a week for them to come in or 3 days for them to come in, and they devise this great plan and it looks awesome. It looks great. But then you have to execute it on your office. So, you have to, it's on you. You may never see them again, or, you may have a little bit of call support. And one thing that's different is, I have to be true to my word. If I'm going into Dr. Dumper's office and we're planning something, we're developing systems and talking with them, they know they're going to see me again in a month.
Right.
So for one, I cannot be BSing them. I got to be straight with them. We've got to be really working on their improvement and working on the improvement of the practice, working on the culture and working on the team and obviously too, and helping them make more money through bonus systems and stuff as well.
So can you give us a little bit of for people that don't know or haven't heard of Fortune Management, kind of why Fortune Management was started, how you got set up with Fortune Management, and we've been talking about the coaching and some of the things they offer, but really, where did that concept of Fortune Management come from?
Yeah, it's great. So there's a guy named Dr. Paul Bass. He founded a company. It was one of the original founders of a company called Quest. It was he's a doctor in Tennessee, and Quest was around, this is 30 years ago. And then he went to hired Tony Robbins to come in and do an event with all the doctors that were in Quest. And Tony believed in it. I don't know if you guys know Tony Robbins, but he's one of the top life coaches across the world. And he believed in it, and they ended up partnering up and forming what's called Fortune Management. So it originally started as Quest, and then Fortune Management was developed. So it'll be 31 years. We just celebrated our 31st anniversary, and so that's kind of how Fortune got started. It was kind of like Tony Robbins, a lot of his philosophies and stuff is life coaching. We take that and we also put it more clinical, and it's obviously adapted and changed over the course of the years. But that's kind of how it originally got started.
And it was always focused on dentistry from the beginning.
It was always focused on dentistry. Yep. Now we've expanded to veterinarians. We focus on and medical doctors and stuff as well. Yeah, Dr. Paul Bass was a dentist himself. I think you've actually met him.
Yep.
Dr. Dumpert. Yep. You've met him, and so he's still going around the circuit a little bit and doing some presentations and stuff as well. But it's always been focused around dentistry.
So I guess my first question is, like, when does somebody know they need a coach?
That's a great question. When does somebody need a coach? Right. Anybody can always help. Anybody can always need a little extra guidance. And like, for example, myself, like I have a personal coach. I always hire a coach. I think if you're going to be a coach, you should always hire a coach. But if you look at even truly like Michael Jordan, like look at these people, they all have life business coaches. Mm-hmm. The most successful people have life coaches. And Oprah Winfrey has a life coach. Conor McGregor has a life coach. Serena Williams, her life coach is Tony Robbins. Her sister got murdered, and she couldn't get back herself back on the court. So he worked with her to kind of overcome that, and he's been with her ever since. So just to kind of give you some ideas. So it's really just the when is when you kind of can realize things aren't too bad. Like, oh my gosh, I'm in a bad position now. I need to hire a coach. Mm-hmm. We're when you're really at the peak of your game, and you can recognize there's always a little bit more growth that you can do as a human, whether it's contribution, impact, what you can do. I think it's when you realize, wow, I think I need a coach to take me to the next level.
So does a coach deal with more like your psychological, your business, or like, I don't know, emotional, spiritual? Like, how do you break this all down? You know what I mean? So that we can kind of hone in on like what a coach will actually benefit you.
That's great. So I always say a Fortune coach wears 3 hats. The first hat is an executive coach. That's a lot of the life coaching. It helps with the business decisions. Then we're a key business advisor. That's where we help with mergers, acquisitions, which we do doing a lot of them right now. Startups. We have a whole startup division. And then we have our practice management specialists, and that's where we come in, where things like the recare systems and reactivations, hygiene reactivation systems, and how those things will apply to the practice. So we wear 3 different roles.
So my personal experience, why I signed up to have a coach was, I have heard, I forget who said it, but you should surround yourself with, you don't have to be the smartest person in the room as the CEO of your business. You just have to be able to put together a team of people that are smarter than you. And if you get that team together, then you can build off each other's strengths. So when I was running the business, or right after I bought the business, one of my vendors came in and mentioned, "Hey, you're running a pretty good business here." Some of the offices that he worked with also worked with this group called Fortune Management. Really, the top 5% of practices in our area, he would see them working with this group, and they're a coaching group. And that was at a point where I really didn't know a whole lot about running a business, setting up systems, managing people effectively. And we've all been trained with dentistry. So we are, in essence, coaches to our patients on helping them to be better at dentistry, because we're supposed to be the experts. I don't know a lot about anything else other than dentistry, because that's where I focused. So that's when I reached out to get help with all those other aspects. And like Todd mentioned, it's, he helps keep me on track with the business, as far as, things that I wouldn't think about. He can talk to us about, the importance of communication, not just in the office, but personal life. And it's lessons that they're bringing that not only helps the business, but the employees can use those lessons in their own personal lives as well.
It's definitely a growth platform for everybody. Any offices that do have Fortune, they are going to take stuff in their lives that they are going to use. Everything, we have some communication processes, like Kyle was just saying, and it really is. It is a great fit for a lot of people. One thing I do want to mention about Fortune does talk about their mission being the preservation of private practice. And that's a big thing with all these. And I know you guys just did an episode on, is it DPOs or DSOs
soon to do an episode on it.
Soon to do an episode, okay. And on that, so what Fortune does is it kind of helps give all the private practices the same advantages. We strive to give them some of the systems and stuff that the big DSOs have.
Okay.
We're working on some platforms right now. They even work with costing, bulk buying, and things like that. But it's really giving them some of the systems that some of the bigger practices would have, or the big DSOs have. We try to give everyone an equal playing field, and that's kind of our goal.
Wow. So, one thing that dentists are struggling with right now is they go into dentistry, and I've talked to so many dentists. They've gone into dentistry with the right mind frame, right? Hey, I want to help patients and so forth. But after a while, you get beaten down.
Yep.
By patients, by insurance, and so forth. So the love of dentistry kind of dwindles.
Yep.
How does somebody like yourself kind of bring that love back again? You know what I mean? Like, how would you help somebody who's in that situation? And would somebody in that situation benefit from coaching expertise like yourself?
Doctor, one of the biggest things I would say is, what you focus on is what's going to happen. And I always look and I'll ask questions. It's always more of a coaching. True coaching is about asking questions and helping the client realize themselves. A consultant comes in and tells you need to do this, this, this.
Right.
You know, a really good coach is going to ask a lot of questions. You know, I would ask, what are your thoughts? What are you focusing on? Are you focusing on just all the negativity about insurance? Are you focusing on this? You know, focus is a really big word, you know, because what you're focusing on, if you're focused on what you don't have instead of what you could have, you're going to probably be more of a negative person, right? You're going to be, it's the same. What you're focused on is really what's going to come. So those are some questions that it's hard to ask yourself, but somebody else can help you ask and help bring back that passion. You know, I'll tell a quick story about how important focus is my son's birthday was in July, and we bought him a 4-wheeler, and we have a lake house, and actually Dr. Dumpert's been there before.
Yep.
And it's got a 9-acre lake, and it's got all this land around it. But when we bought him the 4-wheeler, you've heard the story, I think, before, but he kept saying, he focused on my son, kept saying, man, I'm going to ride the 4-wheeler into the lake. I said, there's so much land, Max. There's so much land. You're not going to ride the 4-wheeler into the lake. But he kept focusing on, all he was focusing on was this new 4-wheeler driving. He thought he was going to drive it to the lake.
Okay.
What do you think happened?
There it is.
Drove it into the lake.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's a 100% true story.
Right.
I mean, obviously we got it fixed and everything, but it's just, you know, what you're focusing on. If you're focusing on how bad your insurance rates are going to be, we can put systems in place to help, you know, get your better reimbursements or figure out which ones you're going to drop and stuff. But it's really, are you focusing on your blessings, or are you focusing on what's not working all the time? And that's going to affect your state. And obviously it's going to affect your business, and it's going to affect your personal life.
So it sounds like it's really a lot of more coaching on your mental well-being, and just basically focusing on what you can control. I mean, so far that's what I've gotten out of this.
Yeah, I mean, that is a lot of it. I mean, because it all starts with, you know, something that Dr. Dumper's worked with me a lot on is it really starts with your physical health. And that's why I love the episode with Dr. Harris. Dr. Dumpert he is a master at his physical health. I mean, some of these trips that he's been on, just where these health trips, I don't even know what exactly we would call it, where he goes
no one knows what
listen to what Todd has to say right now. He's speaking some wisdom, Walter. Just keep listening to him.
I'm so confused if Kyle even does dentistry anymore.
Hawaii, Miami,
Exactly.
wherever else. He was just in California. I think he was lifting weights under the water. Or something. He had something tied around him. I don't know what he had going on. It starts with your physical, then it all starts with your emotional, and then we bring, once the emotional state's right, the team culture. Most truck teams right now are struggling with culture. You know, my two newest clients that I have, both of them, their biggest thing was before they brought me on was my team's never going to buy in, and once we got there and started letting them understand how it's going to help them, and once we got in there, that was, I mean, you know, Dr. Lemer, Dr. Johnson, some of these guys that are just like that. So just it was awesome, and they're so on board. Yep. And you know, that's a big thing. So it starts with the physical, then it kind of goes to emotional. Then once we master that, then we can get into the systems and stuff. But we can have a starting point. If I come in and just start saying, hey, we need to do this, right, a team's never going to buy on board. Right. And they're never going to understand the why. Right. You know, only 20% is the how. 80% of everything we do, every system you implement, everything that you do is the why. Why are you doing it? Why are you doing dentistry, doc? You know, it's the same thing.
Who do you think is your biggest hurdle when it comes to coming into an office? Is it the dentist, the front office, the assistants? Who do you think is your biggest hurdle to success in a way?
It all depends. It's the person that wants to be in charge. A lot of times, sometimes it's the office manager. Until they understand, they think anytime change is inevitable. It's something right, that's always going to happen, no matter what changes in life, right? Right. But anytime that there's changes introduced, people just they don't like that a lot of times. I mean, they think that, hey, they come for a paycheck. A lot of people just come for a paycheck. They're not passionate about dentistry. Mm-hmm. Some of your team members are, but some of them are really just come for that paycheck. And so we got to get over that and get them to understand that importance and get them to buy in of the importance of our overall oral health and how we're, how it's not just, money is just a magnifying device, right? We use money as a scoreboard in dentistry at all my offices. I keep that but that's the best way to magnify our results. I know that if, Kyle is producing or anybody is producing more financial gains, you know what? They're helping more people.
Yep.
And that's really what we use as our scoreboard.
Now, we can be the best dentist in the world, but if we can't get our team to follow us or to see our vision, then we're not going to be able to help people. We're not going to be able to do dentistry. We're not going to be able to run an office. And Todd has done great things with my team as far as building a culture that not just I created, not just Todd's vision was, but it's really sitting down in meetings and having this discussion as a group and having everybody create, this is what we think this practice should be. So everybody has ownership in it.
So one of the first things we do in an office, and we did this with Dr. Dumpert's office, is we created what we call a shared vision. And obviously, I know most people listening are probably doctors. The doctor is the biggest influence on this. But we work and we brainstorm, mastermind with everybody on the team to come up with what the vision of that practice would be like. And then we start playing with it. We work with it. It takes a little bit of a process, work with the doctor to finalize it. And then we put that vision up for everybody to see. And so when you walk in Dr. Dumpert's office, you see really his vision that his whole team created. It's right on his wall, right when you come in. And so everybody sees it every single day, and they remember why they're there. And that's to help people.
Right. So, we have people that listen, all over the world, right? And we have people that are coming out of dental school. And we like to try to help the people that are coming out of dental school. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. Sometimes we tell them not to do dentistry at all. That's another story. We've done that, But the one thing that we try to do is try to figure out how do we tie in to somebody like yourself. Like, I know I could never afford Serena Williams' coach, right? But what's the level when it comes to coaches here? Because I can guarantee you there are coaches that are millions of dollars, like every second that they talk to you,
Sure.
You're paying $1 million or $1 million, right? How do we get somebody that's coming out of dental school, somebody that probably needs more coaching, than anybody else to kind of get their vision, as you had mentioned, going in the right direction? How do we have programs for new dentists? Like, how does this all work with your company?
Yeah, there's a gentleman. He's actually out of San Diego. His name's Jonathan Miller. He has a Fortune startup division. He works with people coming right out of dental school. Program, but any of your people, we kind of every program's custom to.
Hold on, sorry, Todd. Can you repeat that?
Again?
There was some static coming through. Could you start off with what his name was and where he's from and what he does?
No, okay. I'm sorry, Jonathan Miller.
Yep.
Okay. He is he's based out of San Diego, and he is with the Fortune Management Startup Division. So he is always somebody that's just starting up or they're looking to buy a practice. He is an unbelievable resource. He starts with them for the beginning sometimes of their dentistry careers, and then they'll hand off to more of a local coach at that point. So that's one thing one way you can definitely do it. But even if you don't get a coach, there's so many books and stuff, resources. It's just you need to really hone in your own vision. So anybody that's listening, hey, this is not just a promotion for Fortune. I encourage you to really sit and think about what your vision is and what you want to do, because a lot of people don't have that clear vision, and without a clear vision, you're never going to be as happy as somebody that has a clear vision when they're doing what they want to do every day and they're following that vision.
So, Todd, a lot of young people also listen to podcasts. We've learned that, right? So, or even listen to audiobooks, right?
Yep.
So does Fortune have any podcast or audiobooks that might help these new grads? And myself, I have drives. I have to go to different offices, and I would love to just listen to, kind of what coaching is all about. Because I feel like once you actually understand something, then you dive in.
Right.
Absolutely.
You dive in and you go straight into it, because initially you're like, everybody comes with hesitancy. right? Now the key is basically try to break that down in order for you to understand more. Once you understand more, then you want to dive into it a little more. So do you guys have anything along that line? I mean, I'm sure you have a great website, but do you have anything or do you do like free consultations or anything along those lines to kind of get people to understand what you guys do and how you could benefit them?
Absolutely. We do a podcast. If you type in Fortune Management, quite a few podcasts. There's actually one that Dr. Paul Bass does about coaching. It's an absolutely great one. We have events that are all over the country. If you contact us, we'll be able to get you into a live event. We do what's called training camps. These are continuing education events, but it's not always just on the clinical side of things. You can always do what we call an audit of the class. There's that you can do. And the biggest thing to keep in mind is, every client with Fortune is different. We can customize that plan for you. Everything from like our weekly, we can do weekly coaching calls. We can do monthly coaching calls. We can do in offices every once a year, or we can do them twice a year, or we can do them every month. There's a lot of different things based on your needs. And for us to even know what your needs are, before we even touch, like say, hey, we want to bring you in a client, we do something called a practice analysis and opportunity assessment. So what this is, it doesn't apply much to a brand new startup, but there would be a series of questions we're asking, what their goals are. But if it is an existing practice, we'll go in and we'll see, okay, here's, I know a lot of people, practice analysis is kind of a buzzword, you can get a practice analysis from but what we do is with the practice analysis, it sees where's our opportunities and how can we help this and how is it not fulfilling what that doctor really wants to do. Taking away some of the numbers things, we do look at all the numbers and how we're going to pay for ourselves, because you mentioned cost. Mm-hmm. If we're not paying for ourselves, then if I don't pay for myself, if I can't pay for myself, then it's not a good investment for a doctor. If I cannot pay for myself, he should get rid of me. Anytime a coach is not paying for themselves, they should get rid of that coach. And there's got to be measurements and ways to do it. We use something called KPIs, key performance indicators. I call it our scoreboard. How are we improving? Is there certain areas we're improving upon? And we got to constantly make sure that we're improving and we're growing and the relationship doesn't stay stagnant.
And that's a way that he's, we've talked about personally in the culture at the office, but Todd keeps track of those numbers, those key performance indicators. So when some area starts to slip, whether it's collections, accounts receivable, whether it's, what's going on with your patient count, is it dropping, is it growing? He's able to keep those things at my attention, where normally I wouldn't be focusing on that because, every day is busy seeing patients. I'm not going to sit there and look over, spreadsheets and what's my active patient count, what's my hygiene, how many hygiene patients are getting scheduled for their recare appointments. So that's the business end of the numbers that Todd helps to keep me accountable for.
So Todd, I guess then based on what Kyle's saying, do you come into the office and kind of open the books up and look to see what's going on? And then do you come in once a week, twice a week? Once a week, once a month? Like, how do you make sure that these numbers are still going the right direction?
All of the above. So I come in as needed, but I typically end up seeing the offices, especially Dr. Dumper's office, about once a month. I go into there. Sometimes they're traveling to Pittsburgh for training camps or continuing education. Other times I do go into the office. I'm going to do a promotion here for another company that we partner with, but we use Dental Intel. I don't know if you ever heard of that before. It's a monitoring program. So it kind of locks into Open Dental, your EagleSoft, or your Dentrix. And it can tell a lot of things, but it shows a lot of things, but you still got to be able to understand the numbers, and you still got to be able to look at it. And everything in a KPI is either leading or it's lagging. So something happens, what is that going to cause the next issue, right? Or why did this happen? So that's what we're not just saying, hey, we put these numbers in a scoreboard. Well, why is it happening? Or what's going to happen? We really struggled with this area this month. So we know now, hey, next month, this is probably what's going to happen. We need to fix this in advance.
As an example of something this software can tell us is if I'm presenting treatment, I have 3 hygienists. If I'm presenting treatment with hygienist A, hygienist B, hygienist C, I can see what that acceptance rate is per hygienist. So am I getting more yeses from hygienist A versus hygienist B? If so, let's figure out what that dynamic is between that hygienist and that patient. What are they doing that the other hygienist can learn from, so we can increase that acceptance rate across all three of them.
So the questions I would ask Dr. Dumpert in that situation are, is hygienist A, are they co-diagnosing? Are they having everything prepared for when you come into the room? Are they pointing things out to the patient too? And they're not going to diagnose, but are they setting it up right for you? Patients have to hear things 3 times before they're going to accept it, most treatment. And then what's the first thing, you as a doctor, what's the first thing, as soon as you leave the room, they're going to ask the assistant or the hygienist, do I really need that?
Right? Yeah, we're not trusted.
yeah, it's true. So anything we can do, and that's another thing too, we work on enrollment and ways to build, we call it rapport, and ways to build rapport to get trusted better. We use everything from personality styles to modalities to meta programs. There's different types of things that you can do to get more trust with your patients and stuff as well.
I have a question.
Monitoring is big.
Yeah, I have a question, and this, this is a once in a 100-year situation, right? COVID happened. March of 2020 was probably the scariest time for any small business. Right. And I feel like I can argue that it's still continuing, right? But we'll stick to March of 2020, right? When we had to shut down, when Kyle hated everybody. But March of 20 was very difficult. What did your company do with the people that you were coaching to try to help them get through that month and April and May, especially when there was so many information coming left and right?
There was, and that's where too, we were kind of that person. We were getting all the information as well, and we were having weekly calls with all of our clients. This is what's happening. We were setting up protocols, what to be doing. We had manuals that were sent out, trying to really help make sure everything was. We really were on the front of it. And maybe Doctor could even chime in on a few things that we were able to do, but it's good having that somebody there to talk to and understand your situation and what's going on in that financial time. Hey, this is hurting. This bank account's here. Where are we going to be able to open? Our doctors on average, I don't want to say a number that's not 100% accurate, but most of our offices open way before we're more prepared to open than the general practice that was unfortunate practice.
So my experience with them was, as individual offices, we were really, if we didn't have a coaching consulting group, we're really left in our own little island as far as trying to find this information. Are we looking on Facebook groups? Are we looking, listening to podcasts, listening to our state dental societies? And being that Fortune Management is a national company, they have the outreach of dealing with, I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of practices, but they have teams that are available, much like, a Heartland or an Aspen Dental have teams dedicated to this. So they helped on these weekly calls that we were having with groups of offices. These are, Fortune presented us with, this is your COVID manual. As far as, these are some procedures or policies that you might want to consider implementing in your office. Let's tweak this to your own individual office to what you think your needs are. And you can have that written protocol as far as how to handle each situation, what to do if one of your team members becomes sick, what to do if a patient comes into the office and calls back later and says, they tested positive. Everything was already discussed. So when we were ready to open, we weren't, taking situation, we had talked about what these potential situations were going to be and how we were going to handle them before they happened in the office.
And how fast of a turnaround was this? From let's just say the beginning of March until you got the protocol and everything like that. I mean,
every state was different. I mean, I work with clients in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Ohio.
Right.
So everyone's a little bit different. I mean, Doc was seeing emergency cases pretty soon. Pretty
right. I remember that. Yeah. I remember that. You actually talked about that, Kyle.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And I think that what I'm hearing is basically, like Kyle said, as dentists, we're definitely on an island. We always feel very much of we're the only ones that are responsible for everything, right? And I feel like you're basically saying when it comes to working with you guys that you don't have to feel that way. You have now, as a dentist, have somebody that you can reach out to. And
exactly.
That's kind of what's happening.
That is, and one thing else too, I just want to mention is we do something called source team leaders. So it's not a management role, but we break the business down into the 3 major business categories and then 3 accelerators. Your admin, your hygiene, and your operative, right? And so we have leaders there, and then we have calls. It's once a month for each of the leaders. It's one leader per month, and basically you're with all the other 22, 23 offices just in the Pittsburgh area, Pittsburgh, Ohio, Cleveland, West Virginia area. And you're not just talking with me. I'm not sitting there and being the one that's saying, hey, do this, do that. I facilitated, or Curtis or Monica, one of our coaches, facilitated, but we're like, what's working in your guys' office? And we let the offices all work together. So we have 22 or 20 source team leaders that are all the admin source leaders. They're the ones dealing with all the insurance, or the ones dealing with that. And they can talk amongst themselves. So it's not just you can do it in Facebook groups and stuff, but it's actually a time that we're leading a mastermind. So there's a lot more than just the one-on-one coaching. It is a lot of team access and for them to really get with their colleagues.
That's awesome. Can I ask one more question? This is usually when we get negative here, because
sure.
I think Kyle said it best. If it sounds too good to be true, it might be, right? So the question is, so far you've told us all the great things, and honestly,
sure.
It's really cool to learn all this stuff. But then now I need to know, what are some of the negatives that comes with coaching and just your field in general, like the coaching aspects in general, because there has to be negative. Dentistry has some negatives that we talk about all the time on this podcast, right? So what are some of the negatives that people need to look out for? Because not everybody can be as awesome as you, Todd, honestly.
Well, first off, like I said, you got to make sure that that's the right coach for you. Make sure that they're truly credentialed. They understand the business. They understand, that their background, they really are going to, it should be, you guys are interviewing each other, making sure you're a right fit, because not every coach is the right fit for some. And I've even worked with, different ones, and there's been clients that I have not said a word's not the right fit. And for me, and that's happened a couple times. I like to work with people that are really good clinically, because that's probably my biggest weakness, but I'm pretty good on the business side. Mm-hmm. So the perfect client for me is somebody that's really good clinically and that just needs some business honing. But there's other coaches that are maybe they're great clinical, and they want so you got to make sure it's the right coach. And negatives, there is negatives if you're a type of person that doesn't like to get feedback to coaching. You got to be open to it. Some of us kind of get in our own head where we're doing everything right, and we are not open to it. And even as a coach, I'm always asking, hey, is there anything? How did that go? Is there anything I could have done better in that presentation, or is there anything I could do better before? But you got to be open. You got to be willing. You got to be dedicated to do it, and you got to focus on. You got to be results focused. And so the negatives, I think, would be sometimes people hearing things that they don't want to hear, because you're going to hear that.
Yep.
If you're caught in yourself where you don't want to hear. Sometimes we don't want to hear the truth, and that's going to come out. I think some of the negatives too that you're going to get is everybody says they're a coach. I'm really trying to find out if they're a coach or if they're a consultant, and what the role they're playing. Consultants.
Well, break that down. Break that down for us.
Sure. I truly believe a consultant, someone that you hire on a short-term basis, is going to come in. They're going to be great, and they're going to implement systems for you, but they're not going to be there every single month. They're not going to be there long-term. So they can come in, they can do some great things for you, but they're not going to be there with you. So, and it's up to you. And that's where it works great for 2 weeks, but then I see that it falls off. The doctors get back to their, I think you mentioned something earlier, they get back into their routine, they get back into their head, and they don't have anybody holding them accountable long-term. So instead of paying a huge upfront fee, we break it down on a monthly basis, because, we want to make sure we're going to be there long-term. And I think that's truly what coaching is. And coaching is not just consultants are coming in, like they're giving you systems. Where coaching is, we want to develop leaders. We want to develop better people that are contributing to society, and that are doing things. Like, the last call that me and Dr. Dumpert had, we spent a lot of time talking about, how are you going to contribute in 2022?
Right.
And like different mission trips and different things we're going to do. Like we're actually having those type of conversations where he's in a position where he can do things like that. So it's not just about, hey, just a consultant's probably not going to have those kind of conversations with you.
Yeah.
I'm good.
All right. So I'm gonna pivot a little bit because Walter has talked, and this might be a little bit of a teaser for another episode, but Walter's looking for ways to be able to get out of dentistry if he wants to. So as far as investments and real estate, and just as a little teaser, Todd mentioned real briefly, he spent some time with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. So Todd has had lots of experience in real estate and before Fortune Management. And I think he can offer some perspectives to Walter as far as real estate deals, syndications.
It sounds like Todd is coming back on the podcast. That's good. You basically you set it up where Todd is coming back on the podcast.
Oh man, I'd love that. Real estate's definitely. That's truly where I've started my businesses. I started in restaurants, bars, and things when I was 24. Yeah. But really, real estate is where it's my true passion. And obviously, the market's up and down right now. It's some people say that it's super hot, and so you really got to analyze it. But real estate is truly, I feel like it's one of the best ways to do and to invest your money. It's definitely a great way to diversify. I love hard assets. Me and Doc were just talking about some of these things like crypto and NFTs, and I'm not fully into that. Like,
don't get me started.
The NFT, is that part of your portfolio? I'm like, what? I went and looked it up, and I guess it's like some art you need to draw on the computer, and I'm like, I would rather. I love hard assets, love things that I can see, and but I'd love to chat with you guys really in depth about real estate, building a real estate empire. And the good thing about real estate versus a lot of other assets is if you do it right, you're going to be able to leverage. And when I mean leverage, you're going to be able to go to the bank and you're going to be able to get a low interest rate, and you're going to put 10 to 20% down on that asset. And we run the numbers. Hey, are you really going to get a 12 to 15% return after you pay your mortgage, your debt service, after we pay your property managers? Are we factoring all your expenses in? And then we really figure out, is this going to be a good investment? And
Todd,
how much time are you going to put into it?
Todd, you got to stop talking because we need people to come back to the next podcast.
Okay.
You're giving too much away, man. Listen, we do this, all right?
I get excited when we talk about real estate.
We keep coming back. We keep coming back. So basically, you set it up where you're coming back, and we should absolutely do this. Let's talk about real estate, because I don't think a lot of dentists know how to kind of go outside of dentistry, right? We did syndication, which, people were calling me saying, man, I never thought about syndication, right? And there are syndications, and there are times where syndication does work out, right? Yep. Because you're like, listen, I'm just too busy. I don't want to have to manage and look for properties and deals and stuff. And then there are like the hardcore, and I've actually talked to people who are hardcore real estate, investors, and over my head, some of the stuff that they talk about and how passionate, you can hear from Todd, how passionate they are about real estate. So I think that you need to come on, and Kyle, let's set this up.
Yep.
So we can at least talk about that. So we've done the dentistry thing, great, right? So now let's talk about something else outside of dentistry.
And I would recommend on that podcast, let's take it more of a lower level. Let's take it something that every dentist on here could do. Let's talk about like one or two properties, how to analyze that one or two properties to make sure it's a good investment, instead of like thinking about the huge REITs or syndications, and something that people can do on a low level. That's what I think would be the most beneficial.
You basically just spoke to me right there. You spoke to my heart, because I know nothing. So I'm going to be taking notes. I might not even ask any questions. Just take notes. You know what I mean? So no, let's end it here. And thank you guys. Honestly, Todd,
thank you guys.
Man. I really appreciate you, because you just took the time out of your busy schedule to come talk to us. So we definitely appreciate you for that, man. And how do people get a hold of you? Where do they go to kind of connect with your company? Let's speak on that.
Yeah, Fortune Management is fortunemgmt.com, and then on there you can see your coaches in your area. Anybody can reach out to me as well. It's Todd King, TODDKING at fortunemgmt.com. They can always call me 412-618-7525. I'll say it a little bit slower because that was my Pittsburgh fast, 412-618-7525. 888-888-7525, and be happy to point people in the right direction. And two, like always, we do a complimentary practice analysis, opportunity assessment. But any dentist out there, it's my passion is to help people. It's not about, I said it's got to be a win-win, but I wouldn't talk through anything with anybody. I have some documentations for a new that I would be willing to share, no cost to anybody starting out on how to develop your own mission or your own vision and stuff as well. So anything like that, you reach out to me.
That is awesome, man. Let's get it. That was awesome. So my man, as busy as he is, as popular as he is, helping Kyle with anything, that takes forever. So he's still he's willing to even sit down for free and just give you some wisdom, man. I love it, man. That's awesome. Thank you, Todd, man.
Yes, thank you, Todd.
Hey, thank you. I'm so grateful for you guys.
Good.
Man, that's awesome. All right, guys.
Have a great day.
You too.
Okay.